often hear the question, is it June yet? Not quite, but it's getting very close. In fact, the CFL preseason begins today with some fans in regular season form getting set for the Saskatchewan Roughriders against the Edmonton Eskimos at Commonwealth Stadium.
Duron Carter, maybe the most polarizing figure in the CFL and maybe the most exciting player in the CFL. He can do it all, offense, defense, special teams. He once said that he's going to be an MLS goalie when he retired.
Well, you're talking about a guy do it all. This guy does it all for the Edmonton Eskimos. Reigning MOP threw for 5,830 yards last year, but he's going to be throwing to some different receivers, some different lead dogs.
Well, the lead dog is that guy right there. Yeah, Darius Bowman gone to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Brandon Zylstra gone to the NFL, but so what? They have this guy, Darrell Walker, maybe one of the 1, 2, top 3 receivers in the CFL.
You talk about a number 1 receiver. I'm talking about Naaman Roosevelt. This guy, I think he can do more than that last year. I think he can almost double that. You know, I think he's good for 16 touchdowns, over 100 catches. This guy's a legitimate number 1 receiver.
Remember, these are the two teams that were runners-up in the division finals last year, losing to Calgary and to the Toronto Argonauts, who ultimately met in the Grey Cup, which is where we left off with you. Rod Smith, Milt Stegall, Matt Dunnigan. Welcome back. We're fired up for another year of the CFL on TSN, starting it off with the first of 4 preseason games that we will show you with the Riders and the Eskimos today. We won't insult anyone's intelligence by suggesting this is a game of importance. The score doesn't matter, but
every time you step on the field, it's important.
Okay, there you go. What is important in a preseason game?
I guarantee you, Mill Knight, the same mindset, whether it's preseason, whether it's regular season, postseason, whether you're playing a pickup game, it's on the line. And for these rookies, it's a small window of opportunity. They have to seize it. They must. It's minimal at best. For veterans, it's trying to get themselves right. But they also know that these rookies are trying to take their job. So everybody's trying to get out there and ball because training camp, preseason, only 2 games now, Milt. And you've got to make it happen when you get that opportunity, whether you're a veteran or a rookie.
And 85 to 90% of these rookies, this is it for them.
This is it.
But it's going to be 1, 2, 3 of those guys who's going to step up and make big plays. That's what I'm looking for. Also, Duron Carter, they're saying he's going to play all defense today.
Mind-blowing.
Is he that good? Is he that good? Will he be the first player to be an all-star on offense and defense?
Extraordinary what this athlete
That would be special.
At this level, it's insane.
Is he that good? We should ask him. Here's what Duron has to say about his football abilities.
Can you throw?
Yes.
Can you run?
Yes.
Can you return?
Definitely.
Can you kick?
I was working on my kicking last year just in case our kicker got hurt.
Would you let him pass protect?
No, he doesn't have any interest in blocking.
Yes, I can block. I've knocked guys out before. Like that's on TSN.
3 weeks away from the first day of summer, 2 weeks away from the beginning of the Canadian Football League's regular season. Here we are, preseason football. Rod Black and Glenn Suter with you. Take a big whiff. Can you smell it? Football is in the air.
Love it. It's first time we've ever done a game in May. And take a look at Zach Collaros. New uniform, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. 2-time nominee for Outstanding Player when he was back in Hamilton. Last year didn't go well. He gets moved, acquired in January. Won't play probably this afternoon, but dressed on the sideline. Zach Collaros is their starter. Mike Riley, the MOP from last year, threw for more yards than any other quarterback in the Canadian Football League, career high, 5,830. The true leader. We will see a few snaps from Mike Riley here in this one.
They've only been in camp for 7 days with pads. Jason Moss and the Edmonton Eskimos, who last year went to the West Final, lost by 4 points. 4 points away from a Grey Cup appearance. Chris Jones' team 4 points away in Toronto, also missing a Grey Cup appearance, so something to prove. And of course, Jones won a Grey Cup here in Edmonton. Brett Lothar will kick this off. Preseason football from the Brick at Commonwealth Stadium. Former Ottawa Red Black Jamil Smith down the sideline. And will we see a star rise today? Remember, it was a year ago. You talk about preseason football, the guys in the studio said, hey, if you're a rookie, this might be your time to shine. Remember a guy on the field last year won a job here in Canada.
Well, that's what this game is all about. That's what the preseason is all about. Yes, you'll see Mike Riley, few snaps here for Edmonton, starting quarterback, obviously, for the Eskimos. In fact, Jason Moss said the only player on this team that is guaranteed to be the starter if he's healthy is number 13.
Riley fires. And looking for Darrell Walker. And that guy last year in the preseason who won a job, came out spectacularly, was Duke Williams, Da'Keel Williams. There he is. Outstanding rookie season, and in a preseason game had a 90-yard touchdown. Won himself a job north of the border. There he is on the top part of your screen. Most of the starters Eskimo fans will see. We might see a little of this as well. Toby Atigua.
But this is part of the process and what the coaches are looking for. Guys,
Saskatchewan number 0. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
Guys, Rod, that are going to be mentally sound, assignment sound. Make sure you don't make those mistakes, and if you do, you bounce back from them immediately. Toby Antigua had a good second half of the season last year. Will be in that rotation. Remember, the Riders acquired Charleston Hughes this year, not dressed for this one, but he and Willie Jefferson and Toby Antigua will rotate at that end position.
Second down and 5 after the offside call. Riley fires and has Kenny Stafford on the sideline. Stafford, of course, a former Alouette. And also was with the Eskimos, played some in Winnipeg. Some playing time late last year, but Kenny Stafford, one of those players you'd have to think would be a guy who could help fill in for the missing Brandon Zylstra and Darius Bowman.
Legal contact on receiver, Saskatchewan number 24. It's 10-yard penalty. It's first down.
That was the call wasn't a hit on Mike Riley, but Chad Jeter, rookie defensive end coming off the edge, got his hand on the face mask of Riley, and that will be called more times than not. That wasn't the penalty on that last play, however.
Does not count as a completion. Here's a wing formation and out of the backfield. Once again is Stafford, and that's a big question mark. Suits is Darius Bowman out, Brandon Zylstra out. And the Eskimos this year, Bowman in Winnipeg, Zylstra trying to find a job in the National Football League. Big cleats to fill.
Yeah, with Minnesota, and this is where Duke Williams steps in. I talked to Jason Moss about who might fill in and take up some of the yards that they lose by losing Brandon Zylstra. Darrell Walker, no question. But Duke Williams, he says, having a great camp.
It's an Eskimo team that's been down that road before. They'll hand it off, and up the gut goes C.J. Gable. And here's another penalty. Flags all over the place. It's like got a piece of that grill.
Well, it was Batman and Robin here in Edmonton for a long
Major
time.
Foul, face mask. Saskatchewan number 74. 15 yards out to the end of the play. Automatic first down.
These are mistakes that you get a minus for when you're being evaluated. That's Mac Henry getting the face mask of C.J. Gable.
Henry playing with the Riders last couple of seasons, former Burlington Brave in the Northwest Toronto area.
Want to eliminate those minuses. Make sure that you get a plus on every play. Every single play with every player will be evaluated after this game in the video room. And they have more pluses than minuses if you want to get to that next preseason game.
Walker in motion. Riley looks sideline. And there is Duke Williams. Oh, what a move. Nice stutter step. Brought down eventually, but Da'Keel Duke Williams, the former Auburn Tiger.
Well, we mentioned the two receivers. I mean, Darius Bowman and Brandon Zylstra last year. You take a look at their totals and just how important they were to the offense. And I know that a lot of people say, well, how are you going to make that up? And Jason Moss answered that question for me. He said Duke Williams has had a tremendous camp, and there's a guy that's always had that big playability since he got here last year and impressed in the preseason, as you mentioned, Rod, but he's taken a different role, a more important role in the offense this year.
Here's Williams once more. Chopped down near the 10-yard line.
And is it just me, or does he look like he's slimmed down a little bit? I mean, I think Duke Williams came in as a big body. He is at 6'3", 225 in the depth chart. It looks like to me that he's slimmed down a little bit more, and Jason Moss told me he's in great shape, ready for his second camp.
Eskimos Almost 50% in the red zone a year ago.
Well, that's a staggered snap count from Mike Riley that may have just...
Offside. Saskatchewan number 50. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Got the freebie first down.
Red zone proficiency, such an important factor in the Canadian Football League. That number inside the 20-yard line.
Third first down by penalty for Edmonton on this drive.
You got 12.
Again, we'll not see a whole lot of Mike Riley. Maybe even just this series. We'll see C.J. Gable to the 5-yard line is wrapped up, brought down.
You know, when I take a look at Chris Jones on the sideline, and I just mentioned 3 in this opening drive, first downs by penalty for Edmonton. That's 3 penalties that Chris Jones is going to want to clean up, but you see that he's not too overly excited about this. The guys are going to make their way on the roster or make their way off it.
Defensive line. Half the distance to the goal. Still first down.
They're going to make their way on it or off it, depending on their performance. And those penalties will get you cut quickly. So bottom line is you don't see a real overly excited Chris Jones. He's just in that evaluation mode, taking a look at what players are making the plays and what players are making mistakes.
38 yards on this drive accumulated by penalty.
Back up, Matt. There you go.
One of the new cornerbacks you saw there, Nick Marshall for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They're taking a good look at him. It's a motion here, and they'll hand it off again to C.J. Gable, who's going to score the touchdown.
And that's probably it for last year's MOP.
That might be it for most of those guys.
And maybe it for C.J. Gable, get some young guys in. But when you play in that preseason game at home, Ron, you want to put your stars on the field. And that's, even though it's the first one for Edmonton, Mike Riley gets the starting opening drive. They cap it off after some help from Saskatchewan penalties. Cap it off with a C.J. Gable touchdown.
Last year's most outstanding player, Mike Riley, and Jason Moss, of course, an Eskimo team that fell short against the Stampeders, a team that began the season last year 7-0. What a weird season it was. Then lost 6 straight, and then won 5 in a row. Sean White. Point after. So the first score, I know it's only the preseason, but Canadian football in 2018 is brought in by C.J. Gable as our preseason game from Edmonton continues.
Good opening drive for the Edmonton Eskimos. 8 plays, 67 yards, 38 yards and penalties for Saskatchewan. However, maybe a glimpse of who may be filling in for Brandon Zylstra and for Darius Bowman. Little Duke Williams, little Kenny Stafford in that drive. Another Duke Williams finished with C.J. Gable. Good opening drive for Edmonton.
Penalty assisted along the way. Again, a Saskatchewan team that doesn't have a lot of their starters with them today. But they're taking a look at a lot of the young players, including Josh McPherson out of Penn State. Just brought that back. So David Watford is the quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Unlikely to see Zach Collaros or Brandon Bridge. They are in uniform. But Watford is the former star out of Hampton. Chris Jones likes him.
Yeah, undrafted in 2016, but signed with the Eagles as a receiver. And the Riders are giving him a chance to play quarterback, along with B.J. Daniels as well, who we probably see tonight also. Again, another guy who the NFL wanted to switch positions, and David Watford is an athlete. Now the question and the evaluation for guys like David Watford, for Marquise Williams, and for B.J. Daniels for Saskatchewan is, can they be efficient in the passing game? They're great athletes, all of them. All of them can run. All of them, when it breaks down, can improvise. But Chris Jones wants to see if those guys can execute the passing game, find the windows, make the right reads, throw it to the right player.
Watford lifting one. Looking for Devin Bailey, who used to play a lot here in Edmonton at St. FX.
Former first-round pick, and Devin Bailey's in that money zone right now. He's 26 years old, and he's in his 5th season, starting his 5th season. So he's been around. He's had some unlucky injuries, but he's been around, and if he can take that next step and complement Rob Bagg, the Canadian receiver spot, the Riders got something big time because they've got lots of weapons.
Big foot from the man from down under, Josh Bartel. Tyler Crapigna not playing today. 38-yarder.
Will Smith gets about 4 yards on the return.
And Mike Riley. Not sure if we're going to see him for another series or not. One nice drive to start 2018, and 2 weeks away from the regular season. The winds have changed, blew hard in Canada, in the Canadian Football League in the winter, and maybe no more so than here in Edmonton. Look at the amount of talent that has left the Eskimos.
Completely different roster, rebuilding the roster. They still have the trigger man in Mike Riley, and he's the guy who brings it all together. But saw the top 2 on that list we've shown you, Zylstra and Adarius Bowman. Zylstra in the NFL, Bowman in Winnipeg. Talking to the Eskimos and to Jason Moss yesterday, though, you know, they're talking about going younger in some
Major
spots.
Foul, roughing the passer. Saskatchewan number 29. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Here's where, if you're Jason Moss, you don't want to give Mike Riley maybe more than this series to lose your quarterback in a preseason game. Derek Moncrief gets to him.
I think they may have got the wrong guy, but basically offside again off the edge. Too many penalties, even though it's early in preseason for Saskatchewan early in this game.
Bobbled. Gable up the gut. Brings it into Saskatchewan territory.
Boy, C.J. Gable looks good. I mean, you know, that's a record that we've seen played over and over again when you're talking about how good this player can be. His only issue has been injuries and not being able to play an entire season. But if he can avoid those, and this Edmonton Eskimo team in general can avoid those. They had more injuries last year than I have ever seen in my time in football.
C.J. Gable, such a dependable guy. That began with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Comes the blitz. There goes the ball. And in tight coverage, Vidal Hazelton. What a cutback there. And Vidal Hazelton, the former Argo, who really found a home here in Edmonton. Picking up where he left off late last season.
Yeah, well, you remember, Rod, the West Final, Vidal Hazelton had 7 catches for over 100 yards. I mean, this was a guy who led all receivers in that West Final. He just outmuscles his defender for the ball here. Nice 24-yard gain, bump coverage, press coverage up front.
Well, an impressive start for the Eskimos again. Most of their starters in this ball game. Back to Gable, another cut. And this time he's swallowed up near the 20-yard line. Just a minimal gain, so Riley likely will go to the air once more. Such an interesting time for these teams. Camp's just barely begun. This is the first time ever a preseason game in May.
Yeah.
Of all things, and it does feel a little weird. I'll tell you what, the Edmonton Eskimos look pretty good.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay. I like it. We can start
football anytime you want.
February.
Yeah. That's just
regular season opening up on June 14th. Here's Riley. There he goes to the end zone and caught, touchdown, Duke Williams.
Boy.
Just like last year in the preseason.
You know, that second camp for players coming up from the U.S. is so important because they now have the exact game plan for their training and how they're going to get in shape. And I mentioned that Duke Williams, to me, looks like he's slimmed down a little bit. I'm not sure how much weight he's lost, but He just looks like he's got even more of a jump to his step. He always could win that jump ball and was a playmaker when the ball arrived, but he's got separation speed.
5 plays, 75 yards. And, you know, we talk about preseason football, and I know the guys in the studio said, hey, most of these guys will never see the light of day in a CFL game. Well, Duke Williams is proof positive what can happen. It was a year ago in the preseason. The Eskimos found out about this guy, and he just keeps doing this. Duke calls it in for the touchdown, and Mike Riley, just like last year.
2 drives for the Edmonton Eskimos, 2 touchdowns. You're going to see Chris Lyles, a veteran DB now. He's coming back in his 2nd year here, and Lyles is the guy who gets outside position on Duke Williams, but then gives him a free release down the seam, and he's either got to get his hands on him there or get some help from the safety. Didn't get either, and Duke Williams puts it in the end zone. And now we see the introduction to the new dance routines with Edmonton receivers. What do you think of that? What's that called?
We may need some clarification.
Yeah, we're
getting really old.
We need a translation card for that stuff.
You don't even need a translation. Some of the celebrations. That's what makes this game great. As long as it's clean.
Score, have fun.
Score, have fun. And Eskimos are having some fun already. Up 14-zip. Talked about Edmonton's changes. So too in Saskatchewan. And seismic shift, particularly at quarterback Zach Collaros, one of the biggest off-season acquisitions made in the CFL.
And a couple of other big ones for Saskatchewan. I think they had a real good off-season as far as free agents. Jerome Messam, of course, we know what he did last year in Calgary, and he could be a ratio changer in the backfield. And how about Charleston Hughes? A motivated Charleston Hughes. Off the edge with Willie Jefferson will be fun to watch this year.
There goes Marcus Thigpen for a first down, and again another former Cat. Thigpen, who went down to the NFL, of course, for a few years and then came back to the CFL, and every time he touches the football, usually good things happen, Glenn.
Well, he's 32 years old, so he's at nearing the end, not the beginning, but he still has great breakaway speed. Remember that semifinal last year, over 150 yards on 15 carries from Thigpen.
And 18 there goes Watford, deep shot and way overthrown. Looking for Jerron Carter, but looks like a roughing passer call. David Watford.
Major foul, roughing the passer. Edmonton number 93. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's his welcome into the Canadian Football League. Kwaku Boateng.
Like a low hit, and up off the top of that defensive line, the corner of your screen, inside move, and in low. It doesn't matter if you get pushed, if you trip, if you fall, if it's a mistake, if you hit the quarterback low, it's a penalty.
And Watford, the former Philadelphia Eagle, swinging it out to Thigpen. Thigpen has room now, sideline, and Marcus Thigpen knocked out of bounds. Big gain there, and Saskatchewan getting some traction offensively in the last 5.5 minutes of this first quarter.
It'd be a real, change up in the offense for Saskatchewan, because if they put Messam on the field, they could go with an extra import receiver. They could go 2-back with Thigpen and Jerome Messam at the same time. Those guys that can do it all back there.
Watford. This is another ball for a contested catch and into traffic. Again, looking for Devin Bailey. Lucky that wasn't intercepted, although Bailey got his mitts on it.
Yeah, he did a nice job of making sure that Neil King, the safety who was lining this up, didn't get the interception. He basically became defensive back, and that's the ball that David Watford wants back. I mean, that's throwing into double coverage, and that's what they're evaluating. Are you throwing it to the right player?
Second down and 10 from the Edmonton 22. Watford feels the heat and then zips one in.
Talking to Jason Moss, Rod, about the changes that he's going through. Remember, no Odell Willis, and Odell is in BC, and you think, okay, what about that leadership void? Well, they didn't have J.C. Sherritt last year because of injury. They've got him back, and there's no question that Sherritt, even when he was injured, was one of the leaders on their football team. And Jason Moss said he leads differently than Odell did last year. But, man, there's no question who our guy is on defense. It's J.C. Sherritt. We won't see a lot of him tonight, but he is that starter in the middle.
Brett Loeffler, the former St. Mary's Husky, puts it through, and Saskatchewan is on the board. Former Saskatchewan Roughrider is now an Edmonton Eskimo. Looks like we're going to see some Kevin Glenn shortly. Dustin Nielsen will have more on the other side. 18 years in the league for Kevin Glenn, 52,000 plus yards and way more air miles. He has been the nomad, the traveling man. Let's go down to Dustin Nielsen.
Yeah, guys, Kevin Glenn basically completed the CFL cycle when he signed here in Edmonton this offseason. And he says he's proud of it because it shows his longevity in the league. Now, he does have a problem, though. He's got game-worn jerseys from every single team, and his wife says he can't hang them on the wall because there's not enough room. So his grand plan is to get replica jerseys, cut them up, and sew together a Kevin Glenn jersey with a patch from every single team in the league, which I think is a pretty good idea.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Cross the desert, bare man.
Been in every CFL team here and there, man.
Yeah, he has.
Maybe Halifax someday. Kevin Glenn with.
Yeah, he's been good.
Jamil Smith bringing that down the sideline. Kevin Glenn has been worth everything that anybody has ever paid him. He is a guy who has brought his talents to so many different teams, but he is missing one thing through all those years and all this chasing. That Grey Cup ring.
Just going through the jerseys. And now an Edmonton Eskimo. Of course, a quick stop in Toronto. Didn't take a snap there. Same as Ottawa. Started a trade.
You get a jersey. You get a jersey. And, of course, last year in October and in November, he was leading the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And look at him just dropping that in there to Darrell Walker. And Kevin Glenn, best insurance policy in the CFL. 38-yarder. For the 38-year-old, will be 39 on June 12th.
Right in the window, right in the hole to Darrell Walker. Jason Moss told me that I asked Kevin Glenn number 2, is it a competition for number 2? Is it? He said, no. Kevin Glenn picked up our offense immediately. He's our number 2 behind Mike Riley. We're real happy to have him.
There's Glenn once more. Over the top, and bringing it in is Kenny Stafford. Again, Glenn was wearing Saskatchewan green in Toronto. The East Final crossover team, and so responsible for the Riders' 10-8 record last year. But remember what happened in that Eastern Final? It was Brandon Bridge who took over, and it was almost like we were taking a look at the future for the Riders. So Glenn finds his way here in Edmonton. 13-yard gain. So far, the Eskimos 2 for 2 today in the red zone. Stafford out of the backfield. Tiga chases him down.
Well, even the veterans will at times make a mistake. Kevin Glenn looked to the bench there. That play did not look right. It wasn't executed properly. Ended up being a lateral throw backwards to Stafford, but problem on the play action. We'll go second and long.
Mike Riley done for the day. Couple series for him, and Glenn. Shaq Cooper, Fort Hays State, as his first touch as an Eskimo.
Watch a young player here in Shaq Cooper. He's going to look right here and see if he has to pick up a block. He sees there's no block and he releases. That's a good plus for Cooper. Young player, check blitz. Didn't see it, so he took off.
3rd down. This is going to be close. Glenn takes it himself. Let's see what the spot is about. It's a lot closer than the Eskimos would have liked. They're going to measure this. Not sure. Second effort may have propelled him to the first down because that first effort was not getting him there. Right there. And I'm not sure. They are short by a couple of millimeters. So the Riders will bring out their offense, and the first turnover is on downs. Eskimo team that was 30 of 33 on 3rd downs last year. Misfires on this one.
Just an inch short on that play, and it looked like when he stretched to it, get enough, and I think that's what he's explaining to Mike Riley on the sideline. He said, I'm not sure they gave me all my forward progress, but Rider fans will say, hey, turnover's a turnover.
So David Watford again. On it down the sideline. Ron Carter wants an interference call. They do have a flag down right in that area. It looks like he's going to get that call.
Pass interference, Edmonton number 20. Automatic first down to the spot of the foul.
Ball's in the air. Yeah, ball's in the air. Duron Carter, the intended target. So that changes from what could have been illegal contact to defensive pass interference. He's up there at the top of your screen with Duron Carter in the one-on-one. And just contact at the top. The Edmonton Eskimos finishing the year with the same secondary that ended the season last year, starting this year with the same secondary.
Watford again down the sideline. Ron Carter trying to sell that one too. Wanted the flag thrown. Be careful there. That motion with the flag sometimes induce a penalty. Duron Carter had such an outstanding, versatile year last year from him.
Wow, dynamic player. I mean, you know, has had some off-field issues this year in the offseason that they're still working through, but Duron Carter going to play both ways this year again. Last year had an interception against Bo Levi Mitchell in the game against Calgary, playing corner.
Deep drop for Watford, and over the top for Bakari Grant. Grant had a 1,000-yard season as well for Saskatchewan, along with Naaman Roosevelt. And also Duron Carter does a one-hander here.
That's the first throw from David Watford that looked to me like a progression, and he was hitting the right guy, not throwing it into coverage. Nice catch there by Bakari Grant, but he was the read. Take it right to the middle. He sat in that hole, and Watford hit it. His other throws so far in this one have been into cover.
Last play of this first quarter. First preseason game of 2018. Handing it off up the pipe. Big Pen tripped up. Otherwise, he easily would have had the first down. So Saskatchewan getting on the board late in the first quarter and on the move here as we move to the second. Seen some good stuff already. Hey, the sun's shining. Sky is blue, grass is green, and CFL's regular season around the corner. Does it get any better? Well, all the talk, the buzz around the Canadian Football League leading up to the regular season, and maybe most of the buzz surrounding Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel, who is with the Hamilton Tiger Cats in camp, of course, with June Jones as well. And everybody seems to be talking about Johnny Football, whether he will make it in the Canadian Football League, what his future holds. What did you make of Johnny Fever right now?
Well, first of all, it's the first time ever, I think, that we've actually charted reps from a backup quarterback.
In practice.
In practice and in training camp. But that's a good thing. It really is. I've been watching U.S. analysts break down the Canadian Football League game and explain, like we have many times, that even if you come from a big background, a great resume, that doesn't guarantee you anything at the next level. Jeremiah Mazzoli in Hamilton has had an outstanding training camp. He is their starter. June Jones has said that. And Johnny Manziel has got to earn the right to get on the field, not just get it handed to him because of his college resume. Now, that resume changes when he gets to the NFL in Cleveland, because, well documented, Johnny Manziel got off track, quite frankly, got distracted by the other stuff that comes with a lot of money after the draft and you're a number one or a top pick in the NFL draft. So he's got his life backing in order. He's got to go and earn the respect of his teammates in Hamilton, which he's working at right now. I've heard he's looked pretty good at times.
I saw him.
But it's Jeremiah Mazzoli's job right now.
Saying the right things, doing the right things. Watford again finding Devin Bailey on the near side. He gets plastered down here near his ex-teammates at the midfield stripe.
But this could be a good story. When you take a look at Johnny Manziel,
this was an amazing talent at Texas A&M. And remember,
absolutely,
he used to throw footballs to a guy who plays for the Edmonton Eskimos, Darrell Walker.
Yeah, and he's talked to Darrell about the Canadian Football League and that he's going to have to come up and earn it, just like Darrell Walker did here in Edmonton. Went back to the NFL again, gave that another shot, came back last year.
David Watford looking good so far, and going up and bringing it down. There's a penalty flag, though.
Pass is complete. We've got flags on the play.
That's Shaq Evans. Deron Carter talking. Hey, season is already here. Wasn't that a great feature, the sit-down interview with Farhan Lalji?
Yeah.
Deron Carter, in case you missed it, go online to tsn.ca. But Deron Carter, who talks quite a bit, he's a good trash talker.
Yeah.
And he's a very thoughtful guy.
Foul face mask.
Great football IQ,
15 yards
obviously from his
first down.
lineage as well. But he said that someday he wants to become an MLS goalkeeper. He says he doesn't even want to become. He said he would be the best MLS goalkeeper.
Yeah. Johnny Adams up in his grill, and that's the penalty. And then Carter talking about it. But yeah, it's a great feature because basically Farhan was asking him, what can't you do? Is there anything that you can't do? He said he can cook. He
said he was a good hockey player.
He was a good hockey player.
I got to see that.
that I would like to see. But also a good soccer player, as you mentioned. He said, I could play soccer goalie for any league. And I'll tell you one thing. Deron Carter is confident.
Yeah, he's not shy. I mean, ever since he broke into the CFL. Son of Chris, the Football Hall of Famer, of course. Look at the numbers he put up last year, including another touchdown on an interception return.
Yeah.
And he
his field goal returns.
Ridiculously talented.
And that catch, the backhand corner of the end zone.
That one's going nowhere. And now Deron Carter this year likely catching footballs from Zach Collaros as well.
One of the best I have ever seen. Hand backwards. Look at his. Twisted his hand backwards with one hand. Didn't bring in the left hand at all through the process. Over a defender.
If you put Velcro on your gloves, that's how that kind of works.
It's
crazy.
Off the hook, great catch. I mean, best I've ever seen.
Beckham-like. Deron Carter-like. And here is another field goal. And it's an 8-point game now. Much more to come. More storylines developing and more evaluation for Chris Jones and the Riders. 6 months since the last Grey Cup in Ottawa. 6 months away from the next Grey Cup right here in Edmonton. Let's go to the sideline. Once again, here's Dustin.
Yeah, we have the executive director of the 2018 Grey Cup, Dwayne Minot, with us, and of course, Eskimos president as well, Len Rhodes. And right now, tickets are going to be going on sale June 1st, but people across the country, season ticket holders across the country, have already had an opportunity to get their hands on tickets. How's that going so far, Len?
So far, so great, Dustin. We look back to 2010 when we sold out in 6 days. We're nose to nose. Our Eskimo season seat holders have stepped up. season seat holders across the league, and even the Atlantic Schooners are on board too.
That's a great story for sure. When somebody buys a ticket on June 1st, once again, when they're available, Dwayne, they're getting into the game, but they're getting a lot more when they come to the city, aren't they?
Yeah, you know, we have a great festival plan. We're starting on Wednesday, going right up until the end of the game Sunday, and we have zip lines we're planning, and ski hills, and tube slides. We're just building a great party for the country.
Yeah, he's not joking. I've seen the plans for the ski hills here at Grey Cup in Edmonton. So Edmonton will be hosting. The Eskimos hope to be playing it. Tickets go on sale June 1st.
What a year in Edmonton, celebrating the Double E. 70 years since this franchise was born. 40 years the Eskimos have been playing here at Commonwealth Stadium. Brick field now. And of course the 106th Grey Cup, November 25th. And an Eskimo team that hopes to get there.
That was a returner coming off the fucking field. Legal substitution, too many men in the huddle. Edmonton, it's 10-yard penalty. It's first down.
And stuff that you would be used to seeing in the preseason, some miscommunication issues.
Now, it doesn't affect the day-to-day for Jason Moss, for the coaching staff here in Edmonton, for the players, but there is that added pressure when the Grey Cup is at home. Chance to get there. Remember, as you mentioned off the top, they were one game away from getting to the show last year, both these teams.
Jason Moss already in mid-season form on the sideline. And that ball overthrown. Kevin Glenn, errant toss to Jerron Kreiner. Used to play underneath Jason Moss in Ottawa when he was the Red Blacks offensive coordinator. Kreiner, of course, was with the Red Blacks, and Moss feels he'll be a nice addition to the Eskimos. They have a battle at receiver, especially with those jobs available with Brandon Zylstra and Adarius Bowman no longer here. Second and long. Out of the backfield. And there goes Shaq Cooper, and he is leveled by Cameron Judge. Wow. Wow. The judge and the jury right there.
Cameron Judge is an interesting one, a top draft pick a year ago, a guy who they had to wait on, had some injury issues last year, shoulder, so it really sidetracked his development, but they lost Enoch Mwamba in the middle at linebacker. Cameron Judge can play that strong side, can fly around, is athletic. That's a big hit. Jack Cooper.
UCLA. One hopper. Big hit downfield as well. Well, you'll probably be hearing it a lot in Saskatchewan if this guy can stay healthy. Here comes the judge. Boom. Thursday night football kicks off when the Alouettes take on the Red Blacks in preseason action. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, TSN2, and in 4K. And of course, it was in Ottawa. Our last season ended in the snow. The Argos knocking off the Calgary Stampeders. The year of the catch, they called it. It was an unpredictable year last year. What will 2018 become? After all the seismic shifts around the league and the moves. Who would be on top of the power ranking right now after all the moves?
Well, I think this is a Saskatchewan team that the fan base is excited about for a couple of reasons. One, the possibility that Zach Collaros can get back to that form that we saw 3 years ago, where by mid-season he was a runaway for MOP in the league. I mean, was on pace for 6,000 yards passing that year, then got injured, then went off track last year, but that Hamilton team had some issues.
Zach Stacy, Vanderbilt. Speaking of Zachs, Zach Collaros coming over from Hamilton.
12 games, over 3,000 yards passing, and we were all talking about the season that Zach Collaros was having. He was absolutely outstanding. Then he got hurt. The knee came back last year, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and he'll take part of that responsibility, go 0-8 out of the gate, make all the changes. June Jones comes in, gives Jeremiah Mazzoli the keys to the car, and Zach Collaros' moves. But I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders are looking at this team, and then they look at the weapons. Deron Carter. We haven't mentioned Naaman Roosevelt. You talk about Bakari Grant, Caleb Hawley, Marcus Thigpen, who's done some good things. I mean, there are some weapons in this offense, and if Zach Collaros can even get close to what he was 3 years ago, this team's going to put some points on the board.
Zach, like Deron Carter, a guy who carries a chip on his shoulder pad and a very confident player. Could you imagine the symmetry between those two players if they get it going? Watford, oh, what a catch! Naaman Roosevelt, welcome to 2018. Going up high and bringing it down, and there's a highlight reel catch already, and it's only in the preseason.
Yeah, I agree with Matty in the pregame show when he said that he gets overshadowed a little bit because Deron Carter's in the lineup for Saskatchewan, but all-star receiver, had a concussion last year, big hit, played 14 games because of it, but had 1,000 yards in those games. I mean, this is an all-star.
Super slots, you might call them, those two guys. Casey's going to get corralled here. Their numbers were almost identical last year in Roosevelt and Deron Carter, and these are two of the weapons that will be at the disposal of Zach Collaros.
Rod, I'm not sure there's better hands in the league than Naaman Roosevelt. Just anything in the area code, he's bringing it down. Great route runner. Good football IQ. In other words, understanding where the holes and windows are. They've got some weapons.
David Watford still moving this football. Not this time, though. Stacey, and probably good that he didn't catch that football. Otherwise, he might have been put into tomorrow. Penalty flag in the backfield.
Holding, Saskatchewan, number 68. Penalty is declined. It's third down.
Oh, Thaddeus Coleman, the veteran, guilty of the hold here, so that will bring out the kick team.
Well, David Watford's basically seen this first quarter, and it looks like he may see the first half. So the whole first quarter. We did hear that B.J. Daniels and Marquise Williams will get some reps for Saskatchewan as well. I don't know. I've seen a couple of throws into coverage from Watford. Of course, you have to go down and break down the video and see exactly what was called and where the reads were supposed to take him. But
here is Brett Lothar. Almost from the midfield stripe, 55-yarder, and it looks like he may have it. He does. How about that? Former star from St. Mary's nails it from 55. The Riders pull closer. Naaman does what Naaman does. Highlight reel material for Roosevelt.
Welcome back to Edmonton. Here's a look at the Edmonton Eskimos draft class of 2018. Two DBs out of the gate. Their first pick was the 10th overall, Godfrey Onyeka. He's dressed and out here. Well, I watched him in the combine, some of the videos out of Wilfrid Laurier, a guy who really looked good in man-to-man coverage, and it could be a ratio changer if he can play corner. They, of course, play with Neil King at safety, Canadian as well. Two DBs out of the gate for Edmonton.
Jamil Smith again up near the 28-yard line.
Of course, those guys, those young guys, especially if you're a DB, you've got to make the team playing on the teams. And that's the special teams. So get down there, hustle down, find your man, make a block. Make the club on the special teams, work your way into the starting lineup.
Onyeka picked in the second round, fell to that second round. Eskimos made a deal to take that spot, and
he can cover. Yeah, look good.
General Manager Brock Sunderland very happy with that selection. Pads Pads are popping already in the preseason. Shaq Cooper takes a lick here. Positive yardage, though, is how it sounded.
Is that Tristan Doughlin? He stepped in there from the secondary as well.
Guelph Griffin, Tristan Doughlin. Second and short. Looks like they have the first down.
Saw that big hit going to break a moment ago from Cameron Judge. And I really think this guy could be a difference maker on defense for Saskatchewan. I mean, here is a former UCLA captain. If you're captain for the Bruins, you've got that leadership ability and that skill level, and if he can fly around and hit, they love his athleticism. He can cover, take backs out of the backfield, and gets that Canadian status.
Kevin Glenn back to Cooper up near the 50. It's been a lot of Zach Cooper here. Kevin Glenn,
I mean,
chemistry.
He was a weight room guy at UCLA, a guy that was the leader in the training sessions, the captain of those things. You see the drop there as he drops out of the defensive line and gets underneath coverage, so it forces Edmonton to throw it under and then rallies to the tackle. He has a big season. He and Sam Hurl are going to work in that linebacking spot.
5 minutes to halftime here. Here goes Cooper again. Shaq Cooper, 10 more. Fort Hays State.
Well, we're finding out that Shaq Cooper can take a hit. Now, I should mention, too, that he's taken these hits after nice gains. And he's the guy that I noticed early on checking for blitz in the offense, realizing there was no blitz coming from the linebacking core and releasing. Remember that play that the Edmonton Eskimos were just short on third down, but Cooper did his job.
Again, an Edmonton team that just has not been able to keep a running back upright over the last few years. Carousel of backs.
I gotta get my wind up, man.
You take a look at Cooper in the warm-up, and he's playing mad, I think. Because he's in the warm-up, he runs this little swing pass, drops his headset, steps on them.
You've got to be kidding.
They blow up.
No.
And now he's going, I just bought those.
Those are beats, and you just beat them.
300-400? He's playing angry. That's the problem.
Oh, man.
But here's in reality, you got
unless he borrowed
Gable.
Unless he borrowed them.
Maybe he borrowed them.
And if he borrowed them from an
offensive lineman, he's still out of pocket. He's still got to go and replace him.
Offside. Saskatchewan number 90.
But CJ Gable has, throughout his CFL career, as great as he's been, and he has been great, all-star level, CJ Gable has not played a full year of games, 18 regular season games. He's been injured, and at times off and on. So if they can find a guy, and then maybe Shaq Cooper is that guy.
Matt O'Donnell, the CFL All-Star guard from last year, the veteran, the towering O'Donnell, is down on the turf. And this is what you do not want in the preseason, is to lose one of your stars for any stretch of time.
Cooper over 50 yards of offense in this first half. There's CJ, and no question who the starter is. And of course, the Edmonton Eskimos, if you're just joining us, 2 scores in their opening 2 drives of this game. Mike Riley at quarterback. CJ Gable has registered a touchdown as well in this preseason game. Score doesn't matter, really. It's about evaluation. Looks like Big Matt O'Donnell's going to be okay. Riley looked good and sharp. Got Duke Williams involved in the offense early on in the first quarter. 2 early scores, and Saskatchewan's been chipping away ever since. But Shaq Cooper is stepping up a little bit, making some plays and taking some big hits and jumping back up from one from Cameron Judge. Tristan Doughlain's come in and made a couple of hits on him as well from the secondary.
Taking out his headphones in the pregame. Shaquille Cooper, Coconut Grove, Miami, in Florida. Played his college ball at Fort Hays University in Kansas. Getting another touch here, or no, he won't. It's a play action, and out of the backfield, and spinning it down is Jerron Kreiner for another 10-yard pickup.
Take a look at the hits that Shaq Cooper's been taking here. Now again, after some nice gains, here comes Cameron Judge, and a couple more big ones.
Okay, Steve.
20 yards rushing, 34 yards receiving for Shaq Cooper.
You got 12, Tim. You got 12.
You know that the scouting systems in Canada are evolving when we're starting to get players from Fort Hays State. I had to do some Googling there.
It's Kreiner again, and guess who's there? Duron Carter. It's preseason, and Duron Carter is still playing both sides of the football.
Yeah, we were told that he's going to play a little corner, and this is going to be throughout the season, and he steps in, and I think that's what people questioned last year, was would he be willing to play that physical part of playing corner?
I think so.
We know he can cover, and we know he can run, and he can play the football in the air. The question was, is he going to be physical? Well, he showed you he will be.
Last play before the warning, before halftime. Glenn into coverage on the slant, looking for Kreiner again. Well, we've had some big plays already, some catches, some hard hits. 3-minute warning before halftime with the Eskimos ahead 14-9.
3 minutes to halftime. Rod and Milt and Maddie were getting set to talk about Mike Riley. Didn't look too rusty at all, those first two possessions.
Yeah.
And he gave way to Kevin Glenn, deemed expendable by the Riders. We're talking about Saskatchewan's future at quarterback with Zach Collaros there now. And also Duron. Let's go back now to Rod and Glenn.
Duron already doing some trash talking here today. Couple of big hits. Here's Sean White. This is from just inside the 40-yard line to restore an 8-point advantage, and White misses this. And sneaking out of the end zone and getting up near the 30-yard line, and maybe some more. Karen Moore, Austin P. Aaron Moore making his Rider debut, 52 yards out of the end zone.
Well, the guys talked about it off the top in the pregame show that some of these players, if you're a DB and the ball's thrown away from you all game, you might not even get a look at a chance to play it. So when Moore gets his opportunity, I'm not sure if he got the signal to return it or not, if it was missed, but he was taking it, and that's a nice run.
And there's opportunities for a lot of players to.
Chris Jones gave him the thumbs up on that one.
Make an impact.
That, yeah.
What do you say, Glenn? You played at this level, at this highest level. It's very difficult for a lot of returners who are used to American rules coming in to make those choices and to remember all of this stuff. CJ. Got the towel on out of the sun. Always in black. Doesn't matter when.
Went right over and congratulated Moore on that nice return.
Kyron Moore. And trying to find employment here in Canada.
So how do you assess David Watford in this first half? I mean, I think he's at times shown a bit of a rhythm. He's that throw over the middle to Bakari Grant, I thought looked like made a nice read and took that check down for a first down. That was earlier on in this second quarter. But overall, like the kids, like my daughter says now, or my son every now and then, they go meh. When they do that.
Yeah.
Like, how'd you like the movie? And they go meh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
no touchdowns.
Not jumping off the board just yet.
There's a guy who was impressed and maybe had some trouble with his son there. Fighting that was Shaq Cooper, a 42-yard boot. Kevin Glenn returns again for another series. is a guy you know.
Oh, sorry.
You know what you get from Kevin Glenn. I mean, a lot of these guys, Watford and others, you may have never seen before unless you follow the NFL or NCAA football. And we know what to expect from Kevin Glenn, and what you see is what you get.
Different situation, though, for Edmonton. Last year they had who many feel is the sort of the next guy in James Franklin. He's playing behind Toronto this year. Kevin Glenn threw back up to Mike Riley here, and
Matej getting a touch.
But as I mentioned, Rod, Jason Moss, it was one of the quickest answers he gave me. I said, "Is it a competition?" I mean, you got Danny O'Brien, you got Zach Klein on the roster for number 2 behind Riley. He goes, "Oh, it's Kevin Glenn. It's Kevin Glenn," because he's picked it up completely and mentioned he's great in the room. He fits in with this, as they call it, the Eskimo way, and Kevin Glenn feels real comfortable here, and they feel comfortable with him. So he's number 2 behind Riley.
Back to pass once more. A little bit of a wobbler. And had it ripped from his grasp. Kreiner couldn't hang on, but
I think Duran made that play. The corner, or at least
could actually hear him from up here.
Yeah.
If he didn't, called an audible.
See, that's football IQ. He knows he's got a guy behind him, but he reads Kevin Glenn there, closes quickly, and second good physical hit to jar the ball loose. So Duran Carter getting some good positive reps out on the corner.
Two-way Duran Carter. Calls himself a jack of all trades. Wants to be the ace, but he says, like being the jack of all trades. 48-yard boot. Kyron Moore again to the 55-yard line with 1:25 to go before halftime, and there's a flag down.
It's a monster story, though. I mean, to have a guy
holding Saskatchewan number 38. It's 10-yard penalty, first down.
To have a guy that in this day and age of football and the training level and how the athletes get bigger, stronger all the time, to play both ways in skill position is unheard of now. And Duran Carter not only did it, but he excelled at it. That was a throw from Bo Levi Mitchell, and basically called that before the game, too, that he was going to get him, and did. And then scored with it. So, I mean, it is a monster story that's kind of just sitting there quietly. A guy playing both ways in skilled position just doesn't happen anymore.
I got one more drive.
One more drive, and then he's going to shut it down for tonight.
I was playing one too much.
You hear about it in high school, maybe even in college from time to time.
Well, they all do it in high school.
Yeah. Flag football, maybe. But not at the pro level.
No way. Not today.
And it speaks
back in the old days, but not now.
Guy is a phenom. 5-point game. Watford trying to take this downfield. That was almost intercepted.
It looks like at times he's trying to throw it through coverage, and that's when they're going to have to go down and break it down and take a look at those numbers. Just at 50% again, not jumping off the board. Made a couple of throws, but a couple that he's thrown into coverage and got away from him. So newly acquired quarterback coach Steve Walsh from the University of Miami. Remember him? Played in the NFL and came into the CFL via Toronto last year.
Watford's going to take timeout.
He's a starting quarterback, Walsh, in Miami. He was 23-1 as a starter in college, and he's working with these young guys.
Timeout was called before the flag.
And with Zach, of course, and Brandon Bridge.
Jimmy Johnson and the Hurricanes at that time. Zach Collaros again and Brandon Bridge both not expected to play in this game. They'll see some action and probably still getting used to Saskatchewan offense is Collaros. Brandon Bridge, we saw what he could do. Air Canada almost led his team to the Grey Cup game last year. So Riders look to be set, but who might be that player behind those two? Could it be Watford? There's a strong arm, but it's picked off.
Yeah.
Whistles everywhere.
Number 20,
Johnny Adams bringing that in. There's the first interception of the ball game.
And he's got away with a couple, and he's trying to throw it through coverage here again. You see all the defenders for the Edmonton Eskimos sitting on these routes, and Johnny Adams, underthrown ball, receiver goes straight down the sideline, and a couple times Neil King had a shot at a pick. David Watford thrown into coverage, got away with it a couple times, not that time.
Likely in the second half we'll see Marquise Williams and B.J. Daniels, so they give a half of football to Watford. Here's the thing, you get 30 minutes to perform, to show your stuff, to try to make the team. Sometimes you can try to do a little too much. Glenn. Smith.
To Ron Carter with another hit. They're trying to bait him into taking the deep man, and they think that is open, that quick out from the number 2 receiver. That Kevin Glenn's been working that, trying to get it to that second receiver, the inside guy, and hope that Carter has vacated the corner. He's not. He's sitting on it. They need to double if they want to. Edmonton could probably try and double move him up here and get down the sideline.
Somebody tell him it's just preseason. Doesn't matter. Glenn now stepping up. Goes to the line of scrimmage. Jamil Smith spins down near the 10-yard line. And Kevin Glenn, that veteran moxie, able to find tiny Jamil Smith for a 29-yard pickup.
New rule change. We can get to that in the second half. Some of the rule changes, but you can see just shy of the 40 is the line of scrimmage. Kevin Glenn, now the officials will actually look at his foot, not his release point, but look at his foot to determine if he's over the line of scrimmage or not on the throw.
The red zone, looking end zone, and Cooper scoring, touchdown, Shaq Cooper. Impressive. Might he be the Duke Williams of 2018?
Yeah, he's looked good. Yeah, this is a great jump cut and speed to the corner and to the cone. He's taken some hits, bounced back from him. Jason Moss and the Edmonton Eskimos organization cut John White early in training camp and have opened the door for a young running back to come in and play behind C.J. Gable. Maybe it's Shaq Cooper.
Has his first touchdown, albeit preseason, and had an impressive first half. Outstanding for Shaq Cooper. They are reviewing the play. Again, out of tiny Fort Hays State in Kansas. And it seems every year whenever you do a preseason game, we are always talking about someone that we might be talking about down the road. And Shaq Cooper, you might be one of those players.
Boy, great shake and bake move right at the line of scrimmage. Just, I didn't see the number of the defender, but
so 3 touchdowns for the Eskimos, including one by Shaq Cooper. Marcus Thigpen had one. Duke Williams. Of course, Williams last year found employment based on a preseason game. His outing, and maybe Shaquille Cooper will be the next.
A 5-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff. The convert is good.
watch the move by Cooper. Saskatchewan defense have this played pretty well. From the left of your screen, watch a defender step up here and have him really dead to rights right there. And then that jump cut and bounce, acceleration past the angle of the would-be tackler. You can't really coach that. That was coached for a Saskatchewan defensive win. But you can't coach that speed and quickness from Cooper.
What's up, man? Shout out to Cooper. 305, man. Shout out to my mom and my auntie, man. God, I miss you, Grandma Bill. Love y'all.
He's been responsible for 65 yards of offense for Edmonton in this first half.
Shack attack here. Might he be an Eskimo this year? So many decisions to be made. The Eskimos have 90 players plus in camp. Almost as many in uniform. Almost 90 players. Saskatchewan was 70 dressed. And Shaq Cooper giving a shout out to his folks down in South Florida in the Miami area. David Watford's first half, the 15 seconds. Guy that Chris Jones first laid eyes on a few years ago out of Hampton University at a mini camp at a high school in Virginia. And he liked him then. Let's see if we see anything more from him. He might be done for this ball game. Pretty sure that the first two guys are already etched in stone for Chris Jones and Caleros and Bridge. Who's the next?
Taking a knee.
Well, and this doesn't take anything away from the Eskimos' first half, because they looked real good, especially those first two series. But there are a lot of starters not dressed for Saskatchewan in this first preseason game.
Well, this guy is, though, always chirping, always in the play. Duron Carter, 21-9 as we send it back to the Rod and the boys in the studio.
Thank you, Rod Black. The boys being Milt Stiegel and Matt Dunnigan pick up on a thought that Glenn Suter just had. The Riders resting a lot of would-be starters. Yeah. And really, that's the way it played out. The first couple of possessions, Mike Riley, the Eskimos, put their starters on offense out there. But, hey, Riley didn't miss a beat from last year by the looks of things.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's the way you're supposed to play. And I think even if the starters were out there, Mike Riley would still have success. I mean, we are talking about the reigning MOP of the year last year. Right. But I was more excited about the receivers. We knew they were going to have some big tasks in replacing the Darius Bowman, who's been their #1 guy for years, and Brandon Zylstra, who tore it up last year.
That's right.
But they have some guys who are stepping up. Hazelton, Duke Williams. Yeah. Those guys are making plays. Duke Williams stepped on the scene last year. But the guy I'm most excited about is Vidal Hazelton. You remember the big three with Toronto? They've been dismantled for years.
I like the way you said that. Vidal?
Vidal? Is it Vidal?
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 I like the way you said that.
From now on, it's Vidal.
Everybody is going to be talking about that, Kevin. I'm interested not only in those big three, because they are different lead dogs for the Edmonton Eskimos in the receiving corps, but it's Kenny Stafford. Is it Jerron Kreiner? Kreiner got a good look there in the second quarter, and Kevin Glenn was feeding the ball a lot. But, you know, are they going to be able to step up? Is it Torrent Gibson? Is it Peter Berryman? I think somebody else has got to step up in that receiver corps to balance it out even more so.
Right.
But Riley's going to, he's shooting for his third year in a row for throwing over 5,000 yards, reigning MOP. That offense didn't miss a beat. Kevin Glenn is a great pickup in the offseason, and this football team looks solid in the first half against the Saskatchewan team, Rod, that didn't have a lot of guys on the football field.
Talk about renaming players. Number 89, Saskatchewan now. Yeah, I like Duron because you get Duron on offense, you got Duron on defense.
Yeah. Suits talked about it, and it is just astonishing. It's one of the most crazy athletic feats that we're witnessing a player do, and at this level of professional football that I've ever seen. And to go both ways and to be physical.
And that's what I'm talking about. Receivers, you know we're soft, man. We don't want to hit anybody. We are soft.
Playing the game is soft.
Man, all receivers are soft.
That is as much success.
That is a rarity right there. You won't find 5 receivers who could do that right there.
That is phenomenal right there.
That is crazy.
That guy is doing something that's just extraordinary.
Yes, he's exceptional.
And it doesn't even look like it phases him. Now, if I was asked to play another position, because I played corner in high school, right? But if I'm asked
corner,
yes.
When was this, man?
I was in 10th grade. I was all
man, I'd have loved to play against you.
Sophomore year quarterback,
I'd have ate you up, man.
But I tell you, it scares me, right? You know, to be able to play that side of the ball or play an offensive side of the ball and having those things to worry about. One position is enough for most people. He's playing two, doesn't even look like phasing.
There you go. Yeah, it's an amazing story. Halftime at Edmonton. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Riders and their future at quarterback as well. Stick around.
Preseason football from the Brick at Commonwealth Stadium. Now handed off again to C.J. Gable, who's going to score the touchdown.
Boy, C.J. Gable looks good.
Here's Riley. There he goes to the end zone, and touchdown, Duke Williams.
Halftime numbers. Who is standing out there, Milt?
Well, we always talked about a young guy stepping up, and that young guy, to me, so far, is Shaq Cooper. Of those 56 yards, he has 31, only 3 carries, and a touchdown. Let's see what happens this second half.
The other 2 touchdown drives at the start of the game, engineered by Mike Riley, standing by with Dustin Nielsen.
We've got Mike Riley with us. Mike, preseason or not, you start any football game the way you guys started this one, it's got to build confidence.
Yeah, it was great to see the guys come out and compete right away. You know, we had some slow starts last year, and obviously the key is always to come out and play fast early. And to do that in a preseason game with 5 days of practice, it was just good to see that the guys were on the same page and playing hard. You know, and then when the young guys got in, you can see the wheels are spinning a little bit, but they're playing good football. So we just got to continue to compete.
You mentioned the young guys, and obviously preseason is always an opportunity for somebody to step up. Tell us what you know about Shaq Cooper, because holy smokes, was he terrific in that first half.
For sure. I mean, we saw him in Vegas, and he was doing pretty good stuff there. You know, and for these 5 days that we've been out here, we've obviously been very impressed with him. But it's one thing to do it in practice. It's another thing to come out and do it when you're actually getting hit and hold on to the ball and be able to run in traffic. I think he's done a great job so far. You know, we got the best in the business in CJ, but to know that we got a young guy up and coming that's able to come in and give him a little bit of rest and things like that, that's good to see so far.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
12-point lead for what it's worth at the half for the Eskimos, but more at stake in terms of jobs on the line. And another half to go in this first preseason game. The CFL on TSN. We'll be back with the second half.
Come in and play behind C.J. Gable.
June around the corner, May Day here, North Saskatchewan River in Edmonton, where the Roughriders trailed 21-9, but Duron Carter had himself a great first half. Here is Duron with Dustin Nielsen.
Duron, the guys were talking about how well you can cover, but they were very impressed with your physical play there in the first half. How much pride do you take in that?
A whole bunch. You know, a lot of people think us receivers are prima donnas, but, you know, I like to stick my head in there, especially on defense. You know, it's fun. I'm out there, you know, being myself, you know, talking to the guys. You know, a big hit is something that can spark a team, and I'm trying to do that.
Trash talk games seem to be in regular season form. Do you save anything in the preseason or just let it all go?
Oh, no, I'm saving everything for the regular season. They're just getting my, like, B game. This is the JV trash talk this week.
Thanks a lot, man.
Oh, no doubt. Thank you.
The junior varsity trash talk.
So he has levels of trash talk. Well, there's a junior varsity level of trash talk.
Preseason talk. There's regular season. There's playoff trash talk. C.J. Gable scoring earlier. Again, most of the starters. This is where it gets fun. Bring your roster, partner. I think actually at one point,
better have a numerical.
Our statistician Dave Boyer will play.
You have to bring your numerical roster.
Shaq Cooper is still playing. It looks like Danny O'Brien. You know, back to Duron Carter there. Farhan Lalji had that feature, that one-on-one with him. One thing that Farhan wanted to mention is that Duron Carter, even though he does a lot of trash talking, says it's never personal. No insults about moms or wives, just wanted to be clever. And he knows a lot of stuff about a lot of the players. The other thing is that Farhan wanted to make the point up. He says Duron Carter sees himself becoming the president someday. Well, anything's possible. We could see that right now.
Yes. I'm just going to leave that right alone.
Well, Danny O'Brien, the former Ottawa Red Black out of Catawba. And they are short a man, and Jerron Kreiner.
Edmonton number 9. It's a 5-yard penalty.
Makes his way back into the huddle sheepishly. And two guys who
former
played
teammates
in Ottawa with the Red Blacks. Kreiner had a couple of catches in the first half. So we're going to see some Danny O'Brien. We might see Zach Klein as well here in the second half. Mike Riley and Kevin Glenn done for the day.
And it looks like Duron's done as well, because new corners out here for Saskatchewan.
Well, he'll still be talking, though.
Nick Marshall down at the bottom of your screen is one that we keep hearing about.
Out of the backfield, Pascal Lechard, the former Bomber.
He's an Auburn graduate. Nick Marshall, great returner. And talking to John Murphy before the game, the Roughriders, and he brought up his name 3 or 4 times. Just a tremendous cover guy. Play the corner, can play in the return game.
Hey, he might be a guy they might even consider at quarterback. How about this story? Marshall once threw passes to Duke Williams at Auburn. He was the starting quarterback for the Tigers. Played in the BCS game and going deep, and there it is on cue. Nick Marshall, the former quarterback, turns cornerback, and there's his old buddy, the Duke.
He's telling his teammates, you know, he can throw too. He just got the pick, and he can also throw. He was a pretty good quarterback back in the day, but that's textbook.
Penalties declined. It's first down Saskatchewan.
That's textbook coverage. I mean, look. He says, "See, that's my guy. That's my guy from Auburn." Now
he used to throw me passes.
He used to throw them to me. Now he's intercepted ours, and I'm sure he's disappointed with that. Except for the fact that it's an old friend. So Nick Marshall making a play on cue.
Would have loved to have seen it. Nick Marshall makes the Riders, and if Duke Williams gets a chance to make the Eskimos, they may match up against one another during the regular season. Wouldn't that be something? And so now we get into the next quarterback in the rotation for the Riders, Marquise Williams. And up the middle goes Zach Stacy. Nice game there for Stacy. Moves the sticks. Out of Vanderbilt. 18-yard pickup here as he's hauled down just in Edmonton territory.
Good hole up.
Williams of North Carolina. Couple of good players have come out of there. Stacy again trying to pull his best. Shaq Cooper. Well, of course, the Riders had a phenomenal talented quarterback a few years ago out of North Carolina.
Yeah, Darian Durant was a guy who talked to Marquise Williams when he was coming up to Canada and told him a little bit about the CFL. Durant just retiring. Winnipeg Blue Bombers organization. Great career, great Saskatchewan Roughrider. One of the best at the quarterback position, Durant. Williams,
and that was intended for another Shaq Evans out of UCLA.
Yeah, there's a couple of quarterbacks he and BJ Daniels really interested in, but Williams, when you take a look at his resume, again, we talked earlier about Johnny Manziel and Hamilton, and when you're taking their college resumes and you're trying to make that next step, the next step at the next level, and that's what he's trying to do right now. We know he can run. He's athletic. Senior year, almost 1,000 yards rushing for Marquise Williams.
2nd and 10, stepping up now. Williams on the go. Will tuck it and take it. And will lunge forward. Is going to be about 1.5 yards short of that first down, almost 2 yards. See that escapability from Marquise Williams. But Darian Durant, when he came out of college, could do a lot of that. He made guys miss a lot. We're going to miss Darian Durant covering him. What a class act that guy is.
Outstanding. Yeah, fantastic career. And you think back to that 13 championship for Saskatchewan at home. The Edmonton Eskimos have that opportunity this year with the Grey Cup here in Edmonton, as we talked about in the first half. But that 13 run by Darian Durant at quarterback for Saskatchewan, as good as I've seen any quarterback.
Brett Lothar has been around. Couple of practice rosters, having a great day. Perfect so far. Northern Alberta today on a glorious May day, 21-12 Edmonton. HBO's Game of Thrones is on Crave TV. Seasons 1 to 6 now streaming. Crave TV. Sign up and get a month on us and get a free hot dog as well.
Yes, pretty good today. That dog, yeah.
Enjoying that.
That dog has no shot. It's gone.
Hey,
that's beautiful. 2 bites away.
Beautiful day here.
Outstanding. Yeah, I like this early start.
Nothing like a dog at the park. There is Shaq Cooper. Speaking of great days so far.
Good job, mate.
So it's Jones again getting a good look at his team right now, offensively and defensively.
And good draft
they went
year.
to the draft board.
Yeah, a little different approach. I mean, there was a DB/linebacker in tights at the number 2 spot out of the University of Calgary, but their first pick, Dakota Shepley from UBC, very versatile old lineman. He's right now down in the tryout with the New York Jets, but if he does come back to Canada, I think Chris Jones thinks that Dakota Shepley would be a guy that steps right in and could play. He's ready to start.
Out of the backfield, snaring that is Giovanni Aprile, former Queens grad, former Hamilton Tiger Cat. Aprile into the CFL. Had a lot of opportunities to catch footballs, played mostly specials.
12.
Danny O'Brien, who played behind Henry Burris, Trevor Harris in Ottawa a couple of years ago. Harris last year.
Danny O'Brien was having problems with this formation.
Edmonton number 9.
And
5-yard penalty.
You could tell by his body language, he was walking the line saying they're not lined up right. Do I snap it or do I take a timeout? And a few years in Ottawa, he's got about 18 games of playing time off and on throughout the last couple of years. And
second and 15 now. 3-man rush, loads of time, sneaks out.
That's a lateral.
Off to Cooper once more. Cooper gets to the initial line of scrimmage, just a little bit past. They are giving Shaq Cooper lots of looks here. Once again, another penalty flag here. And some more preseason action coming your way this week on TSN, and the regular season just around the corner, Glenn. Edmonton Eskimos will open up the season in Winnipeg June 14th.
We will be televising a Hamilton preseason game with
major foul,
look at
block.
Johnny Manziel.
Number 86. It's a 15-yard penalty. It's third down.
Thursday night in Ottawa and then Friday night in Hamilton. I think there's a little juice
half the distance
in the Steel City right now.
That's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing. The CFL is in the news across the country. It was in the news in the U.S. More eyes on the game. Get young crowd excited about it, and it's all part of it. And I'm cheering for the guy. I hope he can make his comeback complete.
I think everybody is.
And not to say that it takes anything away from Jeremiah Mazzoli. Jeremiah Mazzoli, by all accounts, has had an outstanding training camp. June Jones, and I'm paraphrasing, said, as good as I've ever seen a quarterback. And he's coached a lot of great ones. So
number 96. 5-yard penalty.
He's a proven commodity. Jeremiah Mazzoli almost led his team, the Cats, to the Grey Cup a couple of years ago. And playing behind Zach Collaros, taking over the job last year, but it's Johnny Manziel, and it's more than an experiment. Very, very interesting. Eskimos towering kick here.
Oh, got something.
Oh, Kyron Moore meets head on Brett Vanderkarpet. Junior player drops him in his tracks. Rather rude welcome on a beautiful day in Edmonton. Our unofficial kickoff to the new season. Preseason football tonight here in Edmonton, Saskatchewan, and the Eskimos. The sky is blue and the language a little blue on the sidelines too. Should mention mics are picking up some of that. We apologize for that. Boys sometimes will be boys. Their mom was watching. They said, clean up your act.
Yeah.
There's Mike Benavides. defensive coordinator, head coach of the BC Lions, of course. Talked to Benny before the game. Big challenge here in Edmonton. They've lost some big bodies.
Yep. Penalties decline.
Odell Willis, Kenny Ladler, a couple of key players on defense from last year. But as I mentioned earlier, Mike Benavides has his entire secondary back that finished the season last year, back to start the season this year. That's a big plus. They like Alex Bazzi, former BC Lion, and feel like he can, in a lot of ways, replace Odell Willis because he's got young legs, still a premier pass rusher, and they got a little younger there.
Over the top, and
Williams throwing over the middle.
Into some traffic. Dixon was there. And he was also saying, you know, this is a good time for a guy like Kwaku Boateng, who's kind of been under the radar a little bit.
Let's take a look at
here.
Marquise Williams just going through his reads here, and quick check to the backside. Didn't like that. Went back over the middle, but well covered by Corey Jones.
Shortish kick. Fielded at the 20, just a 40-yarder.
Jack Cooper on the return. Gets the ball up near the 30.
And it's been a busy day for young Shaquille Cooper trying to find a job in Canada. May get one the way he's played. Take a lot of hits, and biggest hit was a touchdown he scored earlier. The Eskimos leading 21-12. Men behind the shades, Chris Jones, Jason Moss. Jones, of course, used to coach in Edmonton. Moss taking over now, and both of these coaches also seeing some rule changes this year.
It was debated at length. I sat in the Rules Committee meetings, and a lot of real smart football minds in there that were debating whether or not to bring back the pendulum a little bit when it came to what can be challenged and what can't. That's the biggest change, I think, this year, is that illegal contact on a receiver cannot be challenged by the coaches this season. It was last year, and it really affected the pace of the game, and that was a priority. The number one priority, by the way, in those Rule Committee meetings, and Commissioner Randy Ambrosi did an outstanding job of a opening sort of statement that said they want the coaches to understand that the old school of contact and player safety has completely changed and evolved. And player safety, the number one aspect of the agenda in those Rules Committee. But they said the pace of the game and the in-game experience has got to be improved. And to eliminate the coaches' challenges on illegal contact is important. Now, having said that, I hope that the officials still call the penalty, because we don't want to get back to DBs tackling receivers at 10 yards and catching them like we used to see 3-4 years ago.
They haven't eliminated.
It's still a penalty. It'll still be called by the officials live, but the coaches can no longer challenge that. And that's a good thing, because they were hiring coaches to look for that penalty. It was the fishing penalty of the CFL last year.
Behind center, short plunge here for the first down. And you wonder subconsciously, too, how it affected the officials, knowing that there's always a chance that it could be reviewed. And now, you know, officials do a tremendous job in the Canadian Football League. They don't have to be monitored by the eye in the sky now, and it's really, it's up to them.
Well, and the league's player safety tops, but also the league is trying to, you know, make this in-game experience as good as they can for the fans. I mean, they're really making a conscious effort in a lot of ways to improve the in-game experience. And that pace is so important. So coaches can't challenge illegal contact any longer. They can still challenge pass interference where the ball is thrown, but they can't challenge illegal contact. So, for instance, if an offense is incomplete on second down, you can't find a penalty 50 yards from where the ball was thrown anymore.
We've come a long way since was a video game for a while there. And I know it was met with a little skepticism when all of the challenges were accepted. But remember the fishing that went on at that time, when you had so many challenges. They brought it down, the challenges per game. That helped a lot. But I think that new rule is one that is a big step in the right direction. High toss. Incomplete. It's Torrance Gibson, Mississippi Gulf Coast. Watched there by Jeremy Cutrer. Kind of flat right now, the Eskimos. And, you know, this is what happens in most preseason games. The play does flatten out, it seems, in the second half. And a lot of those players, draft picks, some of those players looking for jobs, getting their chance finally. Look at this kick all the way down to the 5-yard line. 65-yard kick, and there's going to be a no yards call. Good day for this guy. Nice debut in green and gold. Dustin Nielsen with more on Shaquille Cooper. Should applaud. Last year it was Duke Williams with an impressive debut, and today's Duke is number 25 for the Eskimos. Shaq Cooper makes his debut in sparkling fashion, 70 total yards, including his first CFL touchdown. Again, preseason football, but it makes you wonder if Shaq Cooper might just find a new home here in Edmonton. With more, here's Dustin Nielsen.
Yeah, what a terrific debut for Shaq Cooper, who apparently was excellent in minicamp in Vegas as well. Now, apparently being a running back actually runs in his family. He's the younger cousin of Frank Gore, who, of course, has had a remarkable NFL career, playing in a couple of different places, possibly heading to the Hall of Fame as well. Stylistically, I don't know if I compare the two. In his draft year, Shaq Cooper was compared to, with his ability to make people miss, to Christian McCaffrey, who's obviously gone on to do some good things in the NFL as well.
Well, those are good comparisons. Anytime you're mentioned in the same sentence with people like that. Williams is brought down. Our first sack of this preseason game. Gerald Rivers. Mike Benavides talked about him before this game. Has spent some time in the NFL.
No
look out for
Marcus
him.
Howard, no Philip Hunt, no Odell Willis, and trying to.
They're going to come up with a new celebration here after all the somersaults and the surfer.
That was Odell.
That was Odell.
Yeah.
See if he's taking the celebrations with him. And there goes Williams down again. Back to back, Gerald Rivers. And you can see why Benny likes this guy.
Well, you got to make it happen when you get in there, and this time it's a bit of a stunt where he's going to step up the field and then come underneath. So he showed great ability off the edge, and then underneath on this second sack, the timing as he steps up, then comes underneath, gets a good push, back to back for Rivers.
Played at Ole Miss. And they will boot it out of the end zone. That's a good kick. 35-yarder. And Shaq Hill.
Go, baby.
So let's see, in this game so far, Suits, we've had 2 Shaqs, 2 Zachs, a striker, a hunter, a Walker, an Usher, and a Cooper, and a Duke.
You lost me. But, hey, Gerald Rivers, you could look 6'5". He's got those long arms. I mean, he's almost a Chris Jones type of guy. He likes those kind of athletes as well. Willie Jefferson types.
And up the gut and gone for a touchdown. Jordan Robinson. Welcome to the CFL. Out of Sacramento State. Guy from that school did a lot of great things here and is still doing great things in Toronto. Ricky Ray.
Great blocking up front, the acceleration.
Blink also came from Sacramento State. Charles Roberts. What an explosion And Jordan Robinson. Eskimos running it up now. 3.5 to go in the third quarter.
Well, Jordan Robinson has excellent timing on this cut because it's between him and Sam Hurl trying to make his way in the middle of the defense for Saskatchewan, and Hurl's going to take a side here. As you see, Robinson's going to take this timing on the handoff. Now that inside move here by Sam Hurl gets him in trouble. And now Robinson sees the hole just outside of that. Good move in the open field. Olivier Brouillette, and touchdown. Jordan Robinson.
So you know what he did? He saw what Jack Cooper was doing in the first half. CJ Gable started, of course, expected to be the starter here.
They just gave it to you. I forgot.
Who will be the guy or guys behind him?
And there's, right after the play, Coach Jones right over to talk to Sam Hurl. Saying, if you're going to hold that hole, you got to take on the block. Don't pick a side. Stay true and make the running back pause in the hole.
Kyron Moore dropped by 4 Eskimos at his 26-yard line, and looks like Marquise Williams will continue here in this third quarter. Already saw David Watford in the first half, Williams, and probably B.J. Daniels, I would think, at some point in the fourth quarter. As they look for that third quarterback behind Zach Collaros and Brandon Bridge.
Well, I just shifted my attention from Marquise Williams to watching defensive end Gerald Rivers here live. Back-to-back sacks the last series, and this is a way for Saskatchewan now to try and get Marquise Williams into a bit of a rhythm. Just get that little swing pass. Now they're gonna, looks like it's gonna come back to penalty, and that's gonna put them in first and long.
Saskatchewan number 88. 10-yard penalty. Still first down.
McAdoo, the offensive coordinator, has got to now look at a different part of the playbook. You get into situation here now in first and 20 after the penalty.
Already 13 penalties, stuff they'll have to clean up. They move forward. Strong arm over the top, picked off by Josh Woodman. And there's a penalty flag way back at the 8-yard line.
Look at the draft and Mike Benavides and the secondary and the Canadian DBs.
Penalty is declined. First down, Edmonton.
That the Edmonton Eskimos now have. I mean, some good players. Western Ontario. Watch how he's just going to flow to the eyes of Marquise Williams, who really telegraphs this one. This is going to, if Matt Dunnigan was up here right now, he would say he just stares down his receiver, telegraphs that throw, and the safety does what he's supposed to do. Flow to the football, help out those halfbacks, play the ball in the air. Second interception thrown by Saskatchewan quarterbacks. Woodman gets one.
Let's go, Wood!
Eskimos bring their offense back on the field here late in the third quarter. Touchdowns today from C.J. Gable, Duke Williams, Shaq Cooper, Jordan Robinson. Here's a back shoulder toss. Unable to come up with that. Prelay.
Danny O'Brien had some trouble with the snap, and you know, I was about to say he at least kept his eyes down the field, and he went for the throw that was sort of the least dangerous. He juggles the snap, and then he gets his eyes back up. Now this is either Kreiner catches it or no one does. But the timing off when he dropped the snap.
Cluster formation, a pump and go, but O'Brien has to go backwards, has to throw it away now. O'Brien looking for Johnny Aprile.
Well, the Eskimos, if you're looking at the big picture, Mike Riley sharp out of the gate. First 2 series ended in touchdowns. Good thing, and that's what Riley said at halftime to us. He just nice to see the guys competing at a fast level this early after just a few days, after just basically 1 week of training camp. But they've also found a running game outside of C.J. Gable and some depth. I mean, you've seen a couple of performances and a couple of runs. Jordan Robinson, Shaq Cooper.
Nice kick. See where it's marked.
I think Duke Williams and maybe a little combination of Duke Williams and Kenny Stafford in there. I'm not going to say they're Darius Bowman and Brandon Zylstra. Not yet, but it looks like Duke Williams is going to get a much bigger role in the offense this year.
One door closes, another opens. We've seen that in Edmonton in the years past. Guys suddenly come from down south.
Change is part of it, though, and it really is. I mean, I know that fan base in every sport, on both sides of the border, the fan base gets a little uneasy when they see some star players move on, free agency, or change teams, retire, whatever it may be. But that change is part of it, and you know, you like you said, you open the door for an opportunity for someone else
who before he played, unless again you followed NCAA football, knew that Darrell Walker would be the star. Who would have even known more than that? A long shot, Brandon Zylstra would have been a star. So you get your chance, and next thing you know, Duke Williams could be that guy here. That's a CFL for you too.
And on defense for Edmonton, Gerald Rivers is showing the coaching staff that they should consider him as well. Watch him. We've seen a couple of sacks from him, but watch this play. Steps up the field, takes on the block, slides inside, makes a play on the run game. So from what I've seen from defensive end getting to play in the second half, plus.
Check. All the boxes. Well, the coaches know what they see. Even though it's early in camp, they can spot the talent. Zach Stacy fouls through. It looks like the final play upcoming, barring penalty of the third quarter. This brilliant sunshine here at the Brick Field, Commonwealth Stadium. As you mentioned, Glenn, Riders choosing not to play a lot of their starters that will be there on opening night against the Argos. And on the near sideline, Devin Bailey makes another catch here, but the Riders a long way off as we head to the fourth. Could be the final 15 minutes for some players in their CFL career. Try to make a difference, make an impact. Trying to make the cut in Canada. Well, big shoes to fill indeed in Edmonton. Darius Bowman's in Winnipeg. Brandon Zylstra trying to make it with the Minnesota Vikings. And so who will be the guy or the guys as I take over those spots?
As I mentioned, though, Rod, everyone gets worried about change. If I asked you to change your appearance right now, what would you do?
A lot of things, actually.
Change your appearance.
Here we go.
Okay.
There we go.
So
maybe straighten my tie a little
you've
bit.
Changed your appearance, and to see what you did there, you removed something. You took something away. So I think people automatically think, when they think change, they think of the negative aspect of change, and that's the players that they lost. Well, what about the players that they gained, the players that might get a bigger role, a different opportunity? And Duke Williams, 3 for 37 in a quarter of play and a touchdown. Filling in for Brandon Zylstra, basically taking those reps. So opportunity for him. We've seen a couple of good performances from riders like Nick Marshall.
Oh, there's a fumble football. It's Edmonton's ball on 3rd and 1. They wouldn't have made it anyway. It'll be a turnover whether it's a fumble or on downs. Marquise Williams not having a good time of it here in this second half as we start the fourth quarter with another Saskatchewan turnover.
Well, and this is, again, another example. And you know, this is not necessarily Marquise Williams' fault completely, and it's not necessarily the running backs. It's just the point I want to make, and Johnny Manziel has got to learn this in Hamilton as well, as all young quarterbacks do, even ones with great resumes. It doesn't necessarily automatically translate to the next level. You got to pay your dues, and good and bad, earn that playing time, earn that respect, and it's been a tough go for Marquise Williams.
Zach Klein's into the ball game, and Klein on the roll delivers, and it's a prelay. Or McMaster, Harry McMaster makes the catch at the goal line. Harry McMaster, who actually played at Western, down near the 2, and a nice toss by Klein.
Yeah, I like the throw. I mean, the throw. Watch him break to the outside, throw on the run. Zach Klein, Fresno State. Money down to the goal line.
Zach Klein's done this before.
No, there's no flag on the play. They didn't wait for my whistle to blow the play in. First down.
They will do this again. So Zach Klein gets his turn now. Fourth in line today, and muscles his way. But there is a penalty flag down. Former star at Fresno State, and he gets excited. He did this last year.
Yeah.
They got that new thing going here.
He's having some fun, isn't he? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Saskatchewan defensive line. Penalties decline.
Boy, you know,
it's a touchdown.
Tough run through college for Zach Klein. I mean, he went to a lot of different colleges. Started with Jeff Tedford at Cal Berkeley, but you see the DB over the line, lined up offside. It's been a long and at times challenging journey for Zach Klein.
You got Kramer for a month for that bullshit. Good job, nice throw.
Zach Klein, demonstrative, was at one time one of the highest rated high school quarterbacks in the U.S. Took a circuitous route to get here and try to become the third string guy here in the Eskimo organization. He's already got the dance down pat.
I asked him, that's a touchdown, right? And he was like, yeah.
Hey. Let's take a look at that touchdown throw one more time from Zach Klein. On the run, on the money.
We good? No.
And then scores on the next play from the 1 yard line. And it's the second and third effort that gets him there. And having some fun. Every time in college, Zach Klein was getting that chance to be the starting quarterback. He was so highly rated coming out of high school. Something changed. The coaching staff changed. They brought in a new transfer quarterback that won the job. It has been an uphill climb, but you know, when I look at a guy like Zach Klein, I see a guy that can maybe come in with a different package, be your short yardage quarterback, because if for Edmonton Kevin Glenn is number 2, you've got a different style of guy in Klein.
Where they had Jordan Lynch here for a while. Zach Klein is only perfect in the preseason. 1-for-1 throwing here. A year ago, in the loss to Calgary, his only pass was to Duke Williams for the 90-yard touchdown. And I remember he went as crazy after that pass as he just did just now.
Well, third quarterback for Saskatchewan, B.J. Daniels. And South Florida getting a chance in this fourth quarter. And again, another monster high school prospect coming out of high school. I love when I see these stats. We talk about high school and guys playing both ways in high school. B.J. Daniels in high school had Matt Dunnigan kind of night. Over 700 yards passing and 6 TDs. And I love reading those stats from guys where they just...
Did the other team show up?
Absolutely really? Dominant, but former 7th round pick B.J. Daniels, the 49ers, you know, and I think of his NFL journey, that maybe the one that stands out to me, or the story, is when Daniels is picked up by Atlanta when they're going in to play the Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs, and they want to have a guy that can run around like Russell Wilson and practice and play the scout team. They brought in B.J. Daniels to do that, get them prepared to play against Russell Wilson, and Chris Jones had his eye on him for some time, so really intrigued to see him play.
Pulls it back this time. There he goes, like Russell Wilson, taking off and pulling it back on the play action. So Chris Jones, decisions to make, and this is why this preseason game is so important. Again, he knows who his 2 quarterbacks are going to be. Who's going to be the 3rd guy? You saw Watford, you've seen Williams, and now B.J. Daniels. You know who your running back is going to be there, and Jerome Messam. Who's going to be the other guys behind him? These are all of the things that you have to do to evaluate.
Messam and Thigpen. Marcus Thigpen will be part of that as well.
And that's thunder and lightning in a serious way. Marcus Thigpen and Jerome Messam. Then you got your receiving core, which is all-star caliber for sure.
But here's another guy, quarterback, you know, that I think the league should be proud. The Canadian Football League should be proud of this fact that they're giving B.J. Daniels, and Chris Jones is giving B.J. Daniels a chance to play his position. And, you know, when he first went to the NFL, they wanted to switch him. They wanted to play him at receiver because he's such a great athlete, play him even at running back at times.
Timeout, Saskatchewan.
And when Chris Jones talked to him, he basically said, you know, we're going to give you a chance to play quarterback. Played in the spring league in Florida, and that was appealing to Daniels, and he wanted to come and give it a shot. And he's provided a quick spark here. I mean, a couple of plays, I get it, but it feels different than Marquise Williams' 3rd quarter.
With more on B.J. Daniels, let's go down to Dustin quickly.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting, guys. For the 4 weeks prior to signing with the Riders, Daniels was playing in a league called the Your Call Football League, where they'd have 2 teams of professional players on the field, but all of the plays would be called by a fan vote on an app. And he played in that for 4 weeks. George Cortez, actually, former OC for the Riders, was one of the coaches. And to be honest with you, if the fans are calling the plays, I'm not too sure what the coaches are doing.
Saving a lot of money on coaches, I guess. Daniels rolling. That's an interesting concept. Oh, outstanding catch from Caleb Hawley.
And an equally good throw. I mean, I just talked about the great play by Zach Klein to throw on the run the way he did. And B.J. Daniels shows his athleticism to put it outside where only Caleb Hawley can get there. Well, did he catch it? I don't think he did.
I don't know. They're going to line up quickly here. And looks like there will not be any sort of challenge or review. And there's a whistle. There's a penalty flag down on the far side.
Quarterback sneak and flag.
There's no play. Saskatchewan had yet not wait for me to blow the play in.
They were getting a little jumpy because I think they knew that Caleb Hawley may have actually dropped that football.
But an impressive throw. I mean, let's take a look. You got to survive contact, and I don't think he does. Slips through on the turf, bounces back to him.
Penalty flag again.
Survive contact with the turf, of course.
Edmonton number 91. It's 5-yard penalty. Becomes first down.
Zach Barnes. Guilty party. Offside. Brings the wrath of Benny out. Eskimos now out-yarded Saskatchewan in penalties. 24 calls in all today. A number of penalties led to the first touchdown for Edmonton. Four-man rush for Daniels, slinging it out. There's Kyron Moore doing some returning here today.
Accuracy off on that throw, but B.J. Daniels put some heat on it. That was a fastball outside. He tight coverage, so he wanted to gun it in there. Now the accuracy wasn't there, but boy, the heat was.
The whole line was yelling at the center after.
First preseason game of 2018. Regular season 2 weeks away. He's trying to get honed up. Daniels, and coming back to it. Joshua Stanford. And Josh Stanford out of Mississauga. Played his college ball in Kansas.
It's just a good football play. That's a long throw, first of all, to get it to the wide side of the field. And then to have Stanford come back. So it's put that back foot in the ground, rotate those shoulders through the throw, and get it out there. Brought Stanford back to the ball at a 27-yard gain. Good football play.
We're seeing some good play from guys down on the list so far. B.J. Daniels, Zach Klein. Daniels going deep end zone. And once again was looking for Stanford. Former 8th round pick, 62nd overall by Saskatchewan last year.
Still have Rob Bagg on the roster, and he'll be there, or has been their #1 Canadian, Devin Bailey, and with that Canadian receiver spot. Stanford getting a chance. He's back to the wide side.
Riders 8 for 19 on second down today. Deep drop for Daniels. Out of trouble here. Rolling, pump fake. Wants to take it himself. He will. And he's going to dive and slide. See where the spot is. It looks like it's going to be just a little bit short of a first down. We'll see.
Part of the evaluation for both these coaches is the decision-making process by the quarterback. Now, Daniels looks left, doesn't like what he sees there. You can see pretty good coverage. Edmonton in good position. So this is a good decision and a plus for B.J. Daniels.
3rd and inches. Flag flies again.
Quarterback keeper and more flags.
An off-season of upheaval for so many teams.
Offside. Edmonton number 78.
Well, it will be. I mean, this is today is how sports work. I mean, the free agency players can sign 1-year contracts now. I mean, that never used to happen. It was 2 and an option. You can do a 1 year now, so there's going to be free agent movement. It makes free agent day more fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got to build that chemistry quickly.
11th play of this drive. Impressive so far. Daniels trips and slips and dances and throws.
Good choice. Got in trouble and threw it away.
Big pressure by the Eskimos defense. Jordan Holland on 27 here on that.
Let's take a look. It looked like he had this move down where he's going to just take a little and then spin out of there, but then stumble. That got him in trouble. And this is where the decision comes in. Rather than force it into coverage, throw it out of bounds, live to play another down. Especially when you're inside the 20.
Well, especially when you're being evaluated right now, big time. They're scoping you. You want to make this team. Slant pattern. Pegs it in. Incomplete.
Nice coverage.
Penalty flag on the near side, though. Shadrick Hunter.
There's no flag on the play
coverage.
for blocking downfield as the ball is incomplete.
Again, Mike Benavides
3rd down.
asking for the game. Keep an eye on it. Said, watch this guy. He said he's an athletic beast.
Riders trying to get as many plays for their backups as possible. Not to mentioned being down, but again, the score not really relevant. What's important here is the evaluation process, and this gives another snap to the offense.
3rd and goal. Daniels fires, and again incomplete. Into coverage, looking for Kyron Moore. 4th turnover of the day for the Riders. Nick Taylor right there. Eskimos getting it done offensively and defensively right now in our first preseason game of 2018 on TSN. It's the biggest tournament in the world with soccer's brightest stars. The 2018 FIFA World Cup comes your way beginning June 14th as TSN and CTV bring you exclusive live coverage of every match. CFL season begins as well. Can't wait to get that going. Regular season around the corner. Preseason football here in Edmonton tonight. Beautiful day. Zach Klein still operating. 4th in line.
Well, my question, and I'll just throw it out there.
Okay.
If you're a Rider fan, are you concerned?
No, I don't think so. Would you?
Well, your number 1 and 2 haven't played at quarterback. Zach Collaros and Brandon Bridge not take a snap.
Your monster DNs haven't played, aren't in the game.
Not dressed.
Yeah.
Willie Jefferson, Charleston Hughes, big off-season pickup.
Jerome Messham's not here.
Chad Owens not dressed.
Rob Bagg, of course, is not here as well. Do you think you take it with a grain of salt?
Yeah.
Klein just throws it, and he completes the pass. Kevin Lucas makes the catch.
Sometimes, to me, too, I know that the coaches are going to break down these plays, and they're going to obviously, give a plus or a minus for every play, but there's also the intangible, just that spark that you feel when a new quarterback comes in. I felt it with B.J. Daniels for Saskatchewan. I think you see it with Zach Klein as well. It just, you may not measure it, you may not go and see it on video, but in game day, the team played differently, different pace. He just made another big play on a rollout.
It's funny, and again, I don't know how it played out. You played more exhibition games. I don't want to say exhibition. I'll never say that again. Preseason games.
Yes. We had 4 back in the day.
Yeah. I do think, though, that you can generate some momentum. And I know it's not about winning, but generate some team momentum in a preseason.
Yeah. Hey, these guys,
they want to win.
They want to win playing tonk or backgammon or cards or whatever. These guys are... It's in the DNA if you're at this level.
There's the blitz again. Klein throws it to his teammates. There's a flag on the play with 5 minutes to go. So should you be concerned about preseason? I suppose you would be concerned if they were all starters out here today and that was the score and they were throwing the football all over the place.
It's 3rd down.
Well, it's different. I mean, coaches make decisions differently that they wouldn't make in the regular season when 2 points are on the line. I mean, for Edmonton, they saw some bright lights and some young guys. We've seen a couple of good performances. Shaq Cooper stands out, the running back. Marcus Sigpen looked good in his reps early in the first half. Naaman Roosevelt makes a huge catch, and Duron Carter is Duron Carter, playing both ways and playing very well. So those are real good signs for Saskatchewan.
But I'm sure, like most fans on both sides, even across the league, they'll say, hey, let me know when it really counts. It's going to count soon.
Well, and the concern is their last 5 possessions, 3 turnovers, 2 punts.
Nice return from Shaq Evans, and the Riders bring their offense back on the field. The flag on the play will likely bring this back. Coverage of the French Open continues tomorrow with day 2 action from Roland Garros. It all begins at 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Pacific on TSN 2, 3, and 5. Saskatchewan Roughriders. A lot to play for, of course, this season. Chance to get back to the Grey Cup, but they are also humbled, strong, as really the entire Canadian sports community is. There's the inscription on the back of the helmet. Province still reeling in the aftermath of that terrible tragedy there.
Yeah, really unthinkable. And our heart goes out to the families that are dealing with it all, and just heartbreaking tragedy. Heartbreaking. And I know the Riders will do everything in their power to do whatever they can to help that community.
Daniels steps back and throws again. Reloaded that time.
You know, it's limited reps, but I'm just going to say it. You know that BJ Daniels.
I think he's looked better than
he's been the best quarterback.
Yeah,
for the Riders. He's been the best quarterback.
Jordan Williams Lambert, the Ball State. But look at what Daniels does here, Suits, to be able to have the savvy to get back up and step right up.
Yeah, well, I like that he's got his eyes downfield. I mean, the pocket claps a little bit. He bounces back, buys himself an extra second, but with his eyes downfield, and then finds an open target.
Hands off up the middle. Carry McPherson for a couple of yards.
But he showed arm strength. You know, we've seen all the throws in limited reps here. And now to extend the play and have that pocket presence again, I think he's been the best quarterback in this one for Saskatchewan. They have won that job, that third spot. Now there's another preseason game to go and lots more practices. They're evaluated every throw, not just preseason games, but every throw on the field in practice as well. Every decision, how they bounce back from adversity, all of it is taken into consideration.
Little hard to gauge as well for some of the quarterbacks who played earlier, playing against first teams as well. But Daniels making good so far. There he goes. Rotates back out, and Daniels off his back foot hummed one in, but it was incomplete. Showing some poise here. 3-minute warning here. This preseason affair. Zach's the spectator along with Brandon Bridge tonight. His team down large. Yes. Here we go. Week 1, Edmonton will be in Winnipeg. Argos in Saskatchewan, the defending Grey Cup champions, begin at Mosaic. Johnny Manziel, Jeremiah Masoli, and the rest of the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Did you just give him the start in Week 1?
No, I'm just saying. That's it. Come on, you're putting the Johnny before the horse here.
I love the debate, but
no, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Jeremiah Masoli has earned the right. And as I mentioned, looked great in camp by all accounts. So
Daniels, good toss, knocked down. Might have been a little late on that one. And another turnover here. 2:36 to go. Jordan Holland knocked it down.
You know, you got to give credit to some of the Edmonton defenders here, and on defense, they're forcing BJ Daniels to improvise, to kind of extend plays, and either by scrambling or moving in the pocket, and in doing that, then they're recovering. So you got to give credit where credit's due. I think Daniels, as I mentioned, has still done some real nice things in his limited reps, but a couple of plays back-to-back by the Edmonton Eskimos.
Timeout, Edmonton.
Eskimos take a timeout. There's the general manager of the Edmonton Eskimos, Brock Sunderland, who was, of course, with the Ottawa Red Blacks before coming over to Edmonton.
This is a rebuild for him. And the one thing, and I'm going to knock on wood, there, I just did it. But the one thing that I think they can count on is that they're not going to have the injuries they had last year in Edmonton. I mean, I had never seen anything like that.
The first game out of the chute, J.C. Sherritt down.
The amount of players that went down, but get some continuity. Got their back up to Mike Riley and Kevin Glenn. Zach Klein's done some nice things. Found a backup running back, possibly for C.J. Gable.
Eli Jenkins in the game now, the 5th quarterback for the Eskimos. Shaq Hill calling it in.
Nope. Tough situation for Eli Jenkins to get just a couple of minutes. But, you know, I mean, basically a chance to get in there and get some live snaps. I mean, it's different than the practice pace. And while you probably can't evaluate it with Jason Maas, his performance completely, but what you can do is say, hey, first of all, he was prepared, stepped on the field with a couple minutes to go and didn't look completely out of place. Most importantly, though, giving him some live reps with game speed, playing against an opponent, not against his own team in practice.
But he can take solace in the fact that Eli Jenkins getting this time now. Number 13 got that time a few years ago. Zach Collaros got that time a few years ago.
Well,
all of these guys got that time a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Ed Hervey, when he is now the GM in BC, but when he was the GM here in Edmonton, made the deal to get Mike Riley from the BC Lions. Riley backing up Travis Lulay at that time in BC.
Talk about it quite often, the quarterback quandary that exists in the CFL. If you are a young quarterback, it takes a few years to apprentice here, to learn the game. You just cannot be a star overnight.
In both leagues. But yeah, I mean, I think the misconception, if that's the right word, is that because of the college backgrounds of some of the players that come up at the quarterback position, it's assumed that they'll be dominant here, and they're just not. It's another level. And I've really enjoyed, as we mentioned in the break, listening to U.S. analysts talk about and acknowledge the high quality of play in Canada. And suggesting that Johnny Manziel's got a very steep learning curve, just like Marquise Williams does, who had the great career at North Carolina, just like Mike Riley had to go through. We saw Danny McManus up here in the broadcast booth. He's doing a little scouting, and it took 4 years before Danny McManus got his chance. And Kevin Glenn's been on a bunch of teams trying to find his opportunity to take his time. You know, like, got to understand, I mean, just even the angles on throws is different than the U.S. field. And coming up from U.S. college football, and you're trying to throw a corner route in Canada, it's a very different throw than it is down south.
That Heisman Trophy, or whatever weight you may carry, even if it's an NFL pedigree.
Yeah.
Look through the history of this game. Guys who have come up here and failed. Vince Ferragamo was a classic example.
It's a long list of Heisman Trophy winners.
Eric Crouch.
Yeah, nominees. Yep.
Again, we a little live audio on the sideline, which we apologize for. Guys are pumped up as the new season is almost upon us. There's a nice catch along the sideline, and it's Caleb Hawley. I do like watching preseason football. Some people like it's not for everyone. I do like watching it because there's always one or two players that suddenly you're going to be talking about down the road.
Yeah, and you get paid too, so there's that.
Well, I'm not well, but it's all right.
No,
but
I'm kidding.
Watching it.
I do too. I do too, because for me, I mean, you can look at it too. Look at that throw.
Oh, and separated.
Big play.
Football and man. And that's
going to be a helmet shot.
Shot there. It's Jordan Boyu, former Western Mustang.
That the penalty flag came out.
Roughness. Edmonton number 16. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
They're going to, be tough on this penalty. The officials are going to be tough on this throughout the year. So DBs have to understand that if it's even close, there'll be a penalty flag, because that was close. I thought that was shoulder first, but anyway, I was going to say with a guy like B.J. Daniels, I mean, you take a look and you could say, well, it's the third string job. I mean, some may think, like, who cares? You know, I do, because who knows if it's this team? Who knows if he gets traded like Mike Riley got traded and got his opportunity? Maybe B.J. Daniels becomes the next guy. I love watching him play in live reps in the preseason, making throws that are tough throws to make even in practice against air. And, you know, you start to see some prospects. It's like prospects games almost.
Amazing what that you call it football league brings you. Oh, another big lick here late in this ball game from a guy wearing a number that became famous around here when Shadrack Hunter takes over that uniform worn by Odell. You just got to get your shot, though. Just get your shot. Get your moment. Get your opening. The next thing you know, you could forge an unbelievable career here.
Yeah, and when you watch the special teams video, you're watching it as a team, generally speaking, and you want to make some plays on those teams. I mean, we've shown you a couple here tonight, but
what an arm!
Gunned it in there. Yeah, gunned it in there nicely.
That looked so poised.
Well, it also shows great confidence. I mean, watch him just step into the throw, rely on his arm in the read, and again, avoid the rush. Threaded right in there. It's another good throw by Daniels.
I think you're right on the money. He's in the best of the bunch here for Saskatchewan in the running for the third string spot with the Roughriders. Daniels again. Gonna lay one in. Looking for Hawley.
Daniels looking for
30 seconds to go here. 2nd and 10 coming up. Saskatchewan has a week off, then one more preseason game.
And then you'll see Zach Collaros and Brandon Bridge. Be the tune-up game for the regular season. He's had a good camp. Former Hamilton Tiger Cat. Getting all the reports out of Saskatchewan that Zach has looked real good. Can he regain that form from a couple years back? That's the question.
If he can, look out. Especially with that treasure chest of receivers. There's Stanford, who's made a few grabs here, the Canadian receiver.
Look good.
Yeah. 4 catches.
You know what I like about his game right in this one is he's coming back. He's taking that extra step aggressively back to the ball, just getting a little bit of separation from the DB covering him. And that's a sign of a sort of a veteran, even though just 3 years in the league for Stanford. This is year 3.
4 catches, 78 yards. Daniels marks out the play and pass it off. Big spin there by McPherson. Bashes for a couple more yards, and will they call this, or they leave a second on the clock? One more to come. So Saskatchewan gets ready for another preseason game. Then again, they open the season at home against the Argos. Edmonton will open the season in Winnipeg.
MOP looked good. He looked good out of the gate.
So did his buddy there on the right, Duke Williams. Lots to be positive for the Eskimos. Again, they had a lot more starters here. But a season of intrigue will soon be within our grasp. Daniels, end zone for Stanford. That's it. 35-12. It goes down in the books. No one will remember that score or the stats, but some guys will remember some moments.
Well, some guys may have made the team tonight.
Shaq Cooper in one instance. Something else here tonight. Mike Riley, MOP form. Zach Collaros getting ready to actually get some playing time soon. Thursday, we've got another preseason game. The Alouettes and the Red Blacks. Coming up, the NBA pregame show. It is Game 7 coming up. So long, everybody, from Edmonton.